one particular form of robotic clothing. What I was looking at was possibilities and how we can use our clothing to potentially change the world for one person or for two people or for a community.
Welcome to The Visionaries. I'm your host, Nikki Greenberg. And if you're enjoying the podcast, please consider sharing it with your friends, family, or colleagues. Personal recommendations are the best way to help us grow our community. Today, I am thrilled to introduce Claire Tattersall, the founder of Digital Fashion Week in New York. Claire is an innovator, designer, fashion tech expert, and wearable tech designer. She has been at the forefront of digital fashion, transforming the industry with her creative vision and boundary-pushing fashion, showing us what fashion can be. From robotic fashion to virtual runways, Claire is redefining how we experience fashion in the physical and digital worlds. In this episode, Claire will take us through the journey of founding Digital Fashion Week and share her insights on how technology is revolutionizing the fashion industry. You won't want to miss this inspiring conversation with one of the true pioneers of fashion tech. Claire, thank you so much for joining us here today. It's such a delight to have you.
Hi, Nikki. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really excited to talk to you.
So Claire, today we're going to be talking about Digital Fashion Week. So tell everyone, what is it? How did you come up with it? And why did you find it was just something that had to come into this world when it didn't exist before?
Yeah, so I launched Digital Fashion Week in 2020. So my background is in fashion tech. I've been in digital fashion and fashion tech since 2009. And also I've been making wearable technology. I was creating robotic fashion that is wearable, that hopefully can sort of create conversations around how we can use clothing to make the world a better place. So it was working with a traditional runway show and looking at putting wearable technology on the runway. And I didn't want to film it on a rooftop and put it on YouTube. So I created these templated virtual galleries. And I had one for wearable tech, one for digital fashion, and one for technology. And just had so many more people visit this than I had imagined. I decided now is the time. And I launched Digital Fashion Week there and then.
Okay, so describe this for us. What is digital fashion? What is Digital Fashion Week?
Yeah, so Digital Fashion Week is about the digitalization of the fashion industry. It's every touch point of technology on fashion from concept to consumer and beyond consumer, because we really have to look at recycled and upcycled fashion as well. So I can't really define it for you in one single sentence, but it's about the possibilities. How do we design better? How do we design more efficiently? How do we try clothes on? How do we, before we order them online, because that's the way we're doing it now, how do we prevent returns? How do we ensure that something is going to look better on us? How does a brand engage with their customer? How do they provide different assets for our multiverse layered lifestyles that we have? So digital assets, physical assets, how we can take our clothing into different places. How can we wear it in the gaming industry? How can we wear it in the metaverse for meetings? If we're having online business trainings, how do we have a wardrobe specifically for that? So it's looking at all these different possibilities and how we can wear clothes.
Now, Claire, as you're talking, I'm finding so many parallels for, me and my industry. So I'm from the real estate industry and I'm very immersed in what we call prop tech, property technology. And a lot of the time people say to me, what is prop tech? I'm like, it's so hard to define because it's really the entire industry and it's every single digital touch point. And I hear what you're describing, you're talking about, the whole life cycle and beyond into this next dimension from sourcing, manufacture, sustainability, end of life, recycling, reuse. How do you have a fashion show? How do you try it on? Every single little thing has an opportunity to be digitized. Is that fair to say?
That's correct. That's a really, really good analogy. I really often compare fashion to architecture because they have so many overlaps. It's so much about expression, about how we live our lives. We live in physical spaces and we wear physical clothes, but how can we adapt that and digitize that and make it more efficient and more effective? Connected houses are very similar really to connected clothing. Exactly. And what is the full life cycle and how we can improve that?
Claire, you're somebody of my own heart because as you're talking about this, like yourself, I'm also creative. I'm an architect. And when I was exposed to real estate technology, I realized that to be able to use technology, whether it's a physical technology like robotics, whether it's working in the metaverse, obviously in real estate, we have virtual tours. For you, you have a virtual runway. To me, technology is this other tool in the tool belt that we can use to actually bring this like other dimension of experience and creation. And that's what attracted me to it. It sounds like it may have been a similar journey for you.
Yeah. And I love that is exactly the language that I used when I was working with robotic fashion and I was teaching how to create connected clothing, functional robotic clothing. And I was pitching this as an additional tool in your creative toolbox. I had a particular mission. I wanted to get girls involved in technology. And so this was how I was really pitching it to them. It wasn't about tech, and it was really about how you can be more creative, how you can build more things, and just tools in the tool belt.
Okay, so this is another term we have to find out about: robotic fashion. What is robotic fashion, and how do you teach robotic fashion at a traditional educational institute?
So it is an interesting question. So I have one particular form of robotic clothing. So really it could be anything. What I was looking at was possibilities and how we can use our clothing to potentially change the world for one person or for two people or for a community. I was building clothing that was really a conversation starter. So an example of one thing was I wanted to make everything very beautiful. And I made a jacket and gown out of a silvery, elusive fabric, but the hood could operate to come up and down. So it could be a rain hood, it could be a sun hood. So opening up conversations about perhaps somebody was in a wheelchair and had less use of their limbs. Perhaps their carer would step away from them for a moment and they wanted to protect themselves from elements. Then at the flick of a very small switch, they could operate the hood. So this was nothing that was going to be mass produced. It really was for exhibits, for conversations, for looking at how our clothing is part of the world, and it actually can be a lot more functional and helpful to people in the world while also being really beautiful.
I love that. And as you're talking, I'm imagining almost like a convertible roof coming up and down. And I can see how that can have a convenience aspect, obviously, for accessibility, and also increasing the utility of your fashion so that you're not going from that analog to that digital way. And I can see you wanting to jump in.
So you can see one of the designs in my background as well here. And this dress, so it's a gown and it's got metal leaves built on motors on the shoulder with a proximity sensor. So it was about women dressing how they want and feeling safe as well. So how could you wear something that was slightly revealing and suitable for one environment, but you could wear it, maybe on public transport. And if somebody was getting too close to you from behind, then it would make the leaves rustle. So really conversation starters about the functionality of our clothing and hopefully, contributing to a better world.
I love that. And I think that's the thing, that in design, you have to push things to the extreme to start a conversation. And that's that's what art is. That's what fashion is. That's what couture is. And that's what sculpture is. It's about how can you do something new? How can you push the boundary? How can you invent something? And from there, then you can start whittling down to the practicalities and the details of it and the commercialization of it, which now I believe you've done with Digital Fashion Week, because now you've taken you've become this arena in which a lot of people with great ideas, great opportunities can come out to market, meet with potential buyers, customers, etc. So for you as a super creative, a entrepreneur, someone who is really pushing the boundaries, how did you then go from that space of ideas to being recognized as somebody that's, you've created this entity that's been going on for a number of years. It's international. Like, talk about that genesis from idea to reality.
Well, I'm just going to take a step back and look at my previous company, Thunder Lily, which was a hub where we were bringing together creatives and suppliers and producers and customers. So it's sort of a natural extension of that. I really believe in bringing people together. I don't believe that people are siloed. I believe that we all have different skills and the world is collaborative as well. And greater things can happen when we work together. So I really, really wanted to put together a platform where people could bring the best of themselves and form partnerships. And it is actually one of my greatest joys from Digital Fashion Week when I hear, oh, I met somebody at your event and now we're working together. We create pipelines. For example, we've got in this event, Clo3D sponsored us. We held a fashion design competition, selected winners. We're channeling those winners through different pipelines. So one, we're channeling through, it's into motion capture and on the runway. So Phygital Twin, they take the digital designs and make them into physical designs that we see on the runway. At the same time, we have Clo3D that they're animating these designs. They're passing them, putting them in an Unreal Engine environment. Vicon is creating the motion capture. So when the models walk on the runway, the digital models will walk on the LED wall at the same time. So it's about bringing different ideas and different technologies together to create pipelines to show what is possible. So it is just a natural idea of creating collaborations to build something new.
I mean, that's amazing. You're really talking about the beginnings of a whole new direction for the industry. And what I'm hearing is that a lot of this fashion technology is mature. It can do incredible things, and it can't just do one thing. You can bring so many of these amazing tech providers together to do things in the real world, taking from the digital world, in the digital world, taking from the physical world. And just the creativity is endless. It must bring you a huge amount of satisfaction.
Yeah. And you really put your finger on the button there, Nikki, because there are so many different kinds of technologies that can do so many different things. But how do we use these to achieve our goals? At the end of the day, a brand wants to reach a consumer and improve their experience. And the consumer wants an improved experience and they want to feel more connected with the brand. So how do we find different ways of doing this? Honestly, the possibilities are infinite. So at Digital Fashion Week, we are just showcasing a few of these, but really, again, starting the conversation about where we can go, pitching people's minds around the idea that you can create anything. What are your goals? How do you want to better help your consumer express their identity in the multiverse and provide ways that enable them to do that?
And, I've been very fortunate that I've attended a couple of your events, and that's how we met. We met at one of the events that you're involved in. And I think what I was really struck by in the fashion industry is just how far advanced everything is. And it took me aback because real estate, we're very conservative, and to see how far we as an industry need to go to catch up to where you guys are. Because as I said, again, I just see how mature the technology is and how capable other industries can't catch up because it's there. It just seems like it's waiting for a customer. So can I ask you, when you're talking to, some of these fashion tech startups and these more mature companies that are doing things in a different way, what are some of the conversations that they're having with the incumbent and mature companies? And what are some of the ways that they're able to convince brands to take a chance on them and try something new? What are those conversations sounding like?
So I think a lot of these really established companies we can use their technology in new and refreshing ways. And I think a lot of really large companies have an innovative aspect to them. They still want to change the world, and they've got a mature, really well thought out, well developed technology. But I think bringing fresh ideas into anything that's mature and developed is just beneficial for everybody. It opens up new opportunities, new ways of looking at everything. So really building on this, it is obviously this industry has flourished since 2020. Although a lot of technology was there in advance, but really putting it to good use. A lot of this we really owe to the creatives, because they've been, when you put tools in your toolbox in the hands of creatives, they can take it and make it something new. So I think working with this independent community can really bring fresh ideas and new ways of looking at everything. And I think it's just a great thing for life if we look at that with really established ideas and then fresh new ideas. And neither one is better than the other, but they really work well together.
I love that. And I hear this theme of collaboration and understanding strengths. And it sounds like, again, you've identified another area of strength between this emerging creative community and the incumbent brands, that they can come together and do amazing things, leveraging their different skills. But Claire, can I ask you, if you were to project, say, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years into the future, what do you think the fashion industry is going to look like when there is full adoption of a lot of these emerging technologies that you're seeing? Paint a picture of this utopia.
Wow. Going 20, 30, 40, 50 years, I cannot possibly even imagine. If you look at revolutions that we've been through in the past 4 years, it's just phenomenal. If you look at our adoption of AI in the past year, a year before that, we wouldn't have imagined that we would be where we are now. So I can make predictions. I can only imagine they would be way off, really. There are things that I really, really look forward to seeing. So I would like to make probably a wish list more than a prediction. I would like to look at fashion as really contributing to the conversation around inclusivity, that everybody feels welcome in the world, and we're really able to express ourselves through fashion, because that's the role of fashion, is creative, personal storytelling. I would like us to treat our planet much better, and I think technology has the opportunity to do that, to reduce waste, to reduce inventory, to reduce how we're polluting. I think that is probably our major contribution. I think there are a lot of ways that are going to change. I do see on-demand manufacturing coming down the pipeline, maybe in sort of 3 to 5 years. I think we will have less inventory in advance. We're always going to want clothing. I think digital wearables are not going to replace that. But I think we can change the life cycle and change how we produce. So I think we should have a more inclusive fashion industry. We should have a less wasteful fashion industry. And I think the way we experience clothing is going to change in just infinite ways.
I love hearing about that because I hear about, from what you're saying, I'm hearing how technology is this enabler to improve the problems of the fashion industry, to address inclusivity, to improve sustainability, to reduce waste. And this notion of having on-demand fashion creation to me is wonderful, because trying to figure out the inventory required of any range, any type of thing, there's so much guesswork involved by very, very clever people. But to see the amount of waste that happens in the industry and to know that there are solutions that are actively being looked at is really exciting to me. But Claire, I might concentrate on you for a moment, just so we can get to know you as an individual, you as a leader, you as a creative. And this is a bit of a rapid fire question round. So short little answers to get into kind of your mindset. Are you ready for it?
Okay.
Do you consider yourself a morning person or a night owl? When do you do your best work?
Morning.
How do you structure your day? How do you structure your week?
The day is structured very much by what needs doing now. The week is the bigger picture, the chance to move things from A to B.
When you're stuck, do you actively seek a solution or do you give it time and space?
Wow, a little bit of both. A lot of the time I have to move fast and deliver. So sometimes just sleeping on an idea allows it time to breathe, but usually it's action now.
Decisiveness. Pick a lane and go in it. Which philosophers, theorists, inventors, or designers inspire you?
Can I just say all of them? Everybody has something to contribute. The people within my community, I really love startups. I love their whole philosophy and way of working. And I really love our design community. I think they're passionate, they're self-educated, and they're collaborative, and they're sharing. So it is the people that I have touch points with that I am super, super impressed with.
I love that. Inspired every day. What technology do you use to stay efficient? And are there any AI tools that you're currently testing out?
I do use some AI tools. I like that you put it in the testing, because they're not delivering all the solutions. So I do use ChatGPT for brainstorming. I use Descript for pulling transcripts from videos. I'm looking forward to, at Digital Fashion Week, we have an Angelescu studio who's teaching us how to build an AI assistant. And I really hope to have a lot of AI assistants in the future.
Excellent. Our robot helpers. And finally, how do you think we will work in the future? And how should we prepare for that future today?
I hope when people work in the future, they're going to take a lot more time for themselves. I think personally, time off is as valuable as the time that you spend working. So I'm really a fan of putting down the pen at the end of the day, of really taking weekends off. So I think a lot more balance, a lot more collaboration. I think the more we work together, understanding our skills and how we can bring that cocktail of skills to the bigger picture.
I love that. A cocktail of skills. Claire, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your insights on digital fashion, robotic fashion, Digital Fashion Week, and the direction that the fashion industry is going in. As I said, I can see so many parallels in other industries, and to hear from you as really one of the leaders in the space that created this community that practices what you preach. It's so exciting to get a sense of where everything is going. So thank you so much. It's just been so inspiring to learn from you, and I hope you'll join us again in the future.
Thank you, Nikki. It's been great, and I hope to see you at Digital Fashion Week.
Absolutely. I'll see you there. A big thank you to Claire Tattersall for joining us on The Visionaries and sharing her incredible journey in digital fashion and wearable tech. If you're enjoying the show or finding it valuable, please consider rating or reviewing. It really does help us reach more listeners and share these amazing stories. Don't forget to share this episode with friends, family, colleagues who are passionate about fashion and technology. You can also stay connected with me on LinkedIn or YouTube at Nikki Greenberg. Thanks again for tuning in, and I can't wait to have you join us for the next episode.